Namaste and welcome everyone. How good to have you here again today. This is a reminder, this is Jim Young, your host. It's awfully good to be here with you. I feel as though I know so many of you on a deep level, even though we've never met. But I see you as love, so I don't need to know your name or even what you look like, only that you are, and what you are for sure is love. So we'll go on with the next step, the next chapter. This is a fairly long one and rather pithy, P-I-T-H-Y. I call it the Daily Dozen. And it's a series of suggestions I make that you may want to modify and try for yourself, but more importantly, that you look within yourself for ways of taking yourself inward so that you hear even better, learn even more about what you really are, rather than what you have come to think you are. If you want this list, the easiest way to get it, I've given it some thought, is to go on my website, theinwardway.live, and on the second page are the books there. Click on this book with eyes to see, and order a digital copy for the easiest way to deal with it. If you want to read the whole book, that's fine, and hold it in your hands, and order a paper copy. But the digital copy is very inexpensive. Not only that, it will give you a copy of these ways to consider for yourself as you move forward, defining your very own. Well, okay then, having said that, the Daily Dozen. Number 1, stay in touch with love. Establish a daily routine, yes, daily, that places at first priority ways of working on your relationship with your deepest center, what you are. Meditation, prayer, using your work as prayer, journaling, your inspirations and conversations inwardly, any way that fits your freedom of spiritual expression. But commune inwardly daily, at times, in ways, and in a place that best fits you. Each morning when you awake, embrace life and everyone and everything in it. Give it a big hug. Embrace any gifts of your inner voice likewise. Morning can be such a sweet time when you thank and praise divine life itself. Thank a partner, should you have one, for other gifts of life, for divinity itself. Include some form of meditation or spiritual reading and reflect upon it all in a way which brings peace into your day from the very beginning. Usually as you start your day is how you will live your day. Likewise, at the end of the day, you might want to use your journal to help recollect those things for which you are grateful. And again, give thanks and praise, as we should be doing. I don't want to should on you. That we might well be doing all day when we notice things to be grateful for. For those things you might have done differently, begin taking them simply as actions to be corrected, to learn from. And soon the need for self-forgiveness will be replaced by the understanding that a mistake is just a mistake and is to be blessed like any other act. It is but a step on the path of growing and remembering, and like each and every other step, is a sacred step on our holy journey. Therefore, it needs no apology, neither does it need forgiveness. Soon your days will be lived in greater degrees of freedom and the peace freedom generates. If you have any difficulties throughout the day, pause to reflect just as you did in your waking hours. Now just ask for guidance, for discernment about those who may be troubling you, and perhaps for self-forgiveness for any unkindness you may have expressed throughout the day. A sudden sense of peace will return to you, and the course of your day will change dramatically, for you will have realized that forgiveness is actually unnecessary, and the shame and guilt formerly associated with the need to forgive falls aside in the wake of awareness. Simple awareness, that is the forgiveness, letting the old go for the new, for the truth. This frequent communication pardon me, my tongue got caught in my eye tooth and I couldn't see what I was reading here. And this frequent communion or communication with our true higher power not only brings you peace by putting matters in proper perspective, it builds on your relationship with your inner voice that speaks only truth for you. Your inner voice is no different from any other good friend, and that appreciation and attention needs to be shown for the relationship to grow, to water it. We must take time for relationship, plan for it, even schedule it on your daily calendar. It is we who must be committed to be present in it. Our inner voice already is, always has been, and always will be there for us, waiting simply for us to show up. Make it part of your daily routine, while at the same time responding to the richness of spontaneous communication. Just like any other garden worth tending, it needs loving attention. Otherwise, it becomes filled with life weeds, and these weeds will choke the enthusiasm out of the relationship, actually out of all relationship. Incomplete communication, deception, or deceit of any kind, along with a lack of commitment to be fully present in relationship and putting all else before the ultimate relationship. All these work against permitting relationship to break the soil of the soul. When weeds rather than the intended crop of relationship flourish, there is little chance for survival, and the work becomes all the harder. The relationship then seems to go adrift, and it becomes harder and harder to revive its substance. Most of us take time for developing our physical bodies and the left side of our brain every day. Yes, we practice the intellectual way endlessly, it seems. Yet we forget our spiritual parts, our spiritual side, which really is the foundation for all else. As you find your relationship with your divine essence developing, ask inwardly for help in locating the point in time, perhaps as a child, when you first felt alienated from your inner voice. Initially, it may have taken its form as a result of alienation from a parent as God. After all, in the eyes of a child, the world looms larger in all its manifestations, so it is not unlikely that some disenchantment with a parent could be seen in all its largeness as a transference of disenchantment into what we have called God, but which is our inner essence. Alienation can also arise out of some disenchantment with church doctrine, being told what and how to think about life and your purpose in it, rather than respecting the passive individual revelation and daily resurrection. Or it can rise out of unconscious understanding that we have been separated from our truth, lost to the workings of the mind that has properly performed its function of recording and interpreting life by the ideas and concepts it hears, in this case, mostly those of separation, of which our society speaks so profusely. Whatever the cause, alienation from our inner source corresponds with our alienation from ourselves, or as we now have come to understand it, from self with a capital S, for we are one in being. Alienation from self manifests most profoundly as feelings of low self-worth, and this in turn manifests itself in many ways, like owning larger and more expensive homes, more TV sets, more cars, and the like, just to be higher on the material ladder than the Joneses. It manifests as a wife who says she loves her husband and stays with him in a relationship despite the daily beatings he administers to her, and then a workaholic who stays at the office way beyond reason just to prove his worth to whomever notices. Low self-esteem is manifested every time we let anyone make a decision for us, rather than penetrating the depths of our soul to find our own truth and to live by that. No matter how we manifest low self-esteem, it is tantamount to using the externalized, objectified, idealized self as validation, rather than accepting that because we are created in divine life's image, we simply are loving essence. We don't have to earn esteem by bowing to or worshiping the gods of external validation. What more validation could we ask for than to understand that we are loved just because we are the infinite essence called love, being love? Internal validation is a single validation we need because it is in the recognition and acceptance of what we are that we honor ourselves as love. Internal validation is the only form that is reality. All else is illusion that we create out of fear and lack. No longer do we feel the need to attempt external validation in its stead. Our feeling of separateness disappears in our newfound recognition of oneness. Because we are led to forget ourselves as loved by our competitive lifestyles, we unconsciously fall into the very trap of competing for our worth, as though what we are depends on what someone else is not. Such thinking causes some of us to step on the shoulders of others as we climb to achieve a place higher than our sisters and brothers. And competition sets in to keep us on a higher level, lest our worth be diminished in our fall. It's the zero-sum game. If someone else has something I also want, or something I wish I were, then I cannot have it or be it. That's absolutely erroneous thinking. Understanding that we have worth because we already are loved, rather than striving to earn our worth through approval of others, is a key understanding which unlocks many others. It is an understanding upon which a healthy life of loving is built. So take the time necessary to thoroughly acknowledge yourself on this one. If you do not already have your own means of working within to achieve the desired result, it may be useful to engage the services of a professional psychologist, a counselor, or spiritual director to help you find your way until you are able to do so on your own. But remember, they will take you only to your threshold and you must cross it. Make your work your first priority. The result will be life-changing. For me, two favorite poems which came out of my prayer life several years ago say it all. The first one is What I Am. It is the condition of my heart, not the color of my skin, my gender, religion, nationality, or sexual orientation, even my place in life, that determines what I am. And the other writing is called Worthy. I am worthy simply because I am, not because of my deeds. My deeds are worthy because I am. That's the end of the first suggestion. The second one is called Share and Share Alike. Life has taught me that if you have a life partner, it is both supportive and inspiring to share your spiritual life with him or her. Encourage your partner's journey. Provide a safe atmosphere for such exchanges of love to take place, to flourish, touch, hold hands, hug. Begin and end each day by embracing each other in what is, what might be, and what has been. Embrace whatever happens throughout the day simply as your highest good, no matter how it looks in the moment. As we're all finding out, one way or another, it all leads us back to the inner voice when we're fully aware. Embrace your authentic selves, each other's, and your own truth. It can be uplifting, inspirational, empowering, and, not incidentally, lots of fun. On still another level, be open to listening to other spiritual journeys and to sharing what is happening to your own spirit in your own spiritual life. We need more strong spiritual support systems on this planet. There is much to pull us down, seemingly precious little to lift our spirits. But you will find plenty uplifting in the world as you reach out in the spiritual domain. Should you need a group in which to feel comfortable and supported, or in which to express caring and giving, look around for one that fits your needs. Just ask for such awareness within, and the right one for you will soon show up. Be discerning so that the match feels right, deeper than the superficial levels all too many of all too many relationships. Although you may have no experience with this, it gets easier with practice, trust me. Even the subtleties vanish in short order when we are genuine in our approach. If spiritual life is new to you, be prepared for your friends and priorities to change. You are traveling on a different avenue now, and the scenery is likewise bound to change. Embrace change. Be enthusiastic about change. Look forward to change. Enjoy change. Remember, building relationships starts with you. There's also sharing which occurs from just living authentically. We rarely get to see the effects of our decisions and behavior on another in this life, but they are often more significant than we think. Example is often the best teacher that serves as a sometimes subtle but always deep way of empowering others. Sharing by example gives people permission to be their authentic selves, and it provides them with the courage to do what they otherwise might not do, just out of emulation of your example. I'm sure if you reflect on this, you'll be able to think of how someone else has influenced your life by sharing their own, and vice versa. A story of my own might prompt you. Several years ago, I made a decision to leave my position to retire, actually, as the head of the university. In the eyes of some, seemingly in the prime of my professional career. Actually, I felt something else tugging at me, something else calling me to live a simpler but no less profound lifestyle. Several months later, I greeted a young woman at one of the university's groundskeeper, asking how things were going for her, and she startled me with her response. "Just great," she began. "Good for you," I said. "Well, you're responsible for it." "I'm responsible for you being great?" "Who, me? How's that?" "Well, I figured if you could leave your job after all these years, leaving all you've done here and all the benefits you have, just in order to do what your heart is telling you to do, well, that took a lot of courage. I figured if you could do it, then so should I, and could I, by golly." "Really? For goodness sakes, what have you done?" "Well, two things, actually. First, I've always wanted to skydive, and I did it. It was scary at first, but I did it, and it indeed was fun. Now I don't have to do it anymore. I just needed to prove to myself that I could. And the second thing I did was to go back to college. I was afraid I might fail at it, but I've gone back, and you won't believe it, but I'm getting straight A's so far," she told me, beaming from ear to ear. "Oh, I believe it," I said, "and I'm so proud of you. Good for you." From the fear of skydiving to straight A's, inspired simply from an example of another human being, unintended actually, who would have guessed? We make dozens of decisions daily, many in the plain view of others, not even thinking of how they might be influenced, even unduly influenced by our example. The message to me is to think carefully about our decisions and about how we behave in certain situations. Obviously, our decisions must fit our highest good and not necessarily reflect any preconceived notion of how we might influence another. If our behavior truly comes from the heart, then we are living authentically. That's all that matters. But if we do not live authentically, we also influence others in no less powerful and profound ways. Just remember that one. Sharing comes about in all kinds of ways, some known, some unknown. The one thing is that, more often than not, we don't know for sure how sharing affects another, and that ought not to matter. What does matter is that we care enough to share from a loving heart, irrespective of the results. Giving is the key, not control of the results. Happy sharing, everyone. Third, honor your brother and sister. Be alert to the needs of others. Others appear to us for both their and our needs. It's all part of the law of relatedness. You'll be amazed at who and what events and circumstances come into your life when you are open to spiritual adventure. Such adventure is a necessary and natural part of life. At first, life might seem like a series of coincidences, but as the saying goes, coincidence is nothing more or less than God's way of remaining anonymous. Each contact with another is a new life lesson if we learn to see it that way. If nothing more, in our own awareness, we come to see how we respond to whatever transpires in a particular chance meeting. Long ago, I came to understand that there are no chance meetings. I recall so many occasions where chance conversations were initiated, stories shared, and inevitably a gift of grace arrived at the scene to make it a very, very special moment indeed. And on your deepest levels of intuition and compassion, act on them. You won't be an intruder if you do. Be a good listener above all. Good listening takes practice. Listen for another's sake instead of what most of us do, wanting others to stop talking so we can give our half-baked answer constructed to fit our need to be heard rather than the other's need to hear themselves. Helping another hear the truth of her or himself is an heroic deed. One of the most important things I had to learn about parenting, after all my children didn't come with an instructional manual, was just that, helping my family listen to what they needed to hear from themselves. After all, they have the same God-given right as I do to relate inwardly to resolve the problems, form a relationship out of the unabashed presentation of the issues and listening carefully for our resonance with them. Previous tendencies would have had me telling them what I thought was best for them, or telling them that I had what I had to hear for myself. It was a difficult decision to implement, both because I had no preparation for doing so, like many of us don't, and because my sons and daughters were used to asking for and getting answers they didn't have to fathom the depths of their own souls to find. I remember well the time one of my sons called from college for extra money. In times gone by, I would have somehow found a way to provide the extra sum, bailing him out once again. Instead, I guided him into finding the alternatives for solving the dilemma himself. It wasn't until several years after he graduated from college that I learned he had sold his stereo and camera, plus worked extra hours in order to make ends meet. Talking about building character, mind you. The proof of the pudding is that this particular young man now has a good command of his finances and is very responsible in other matters as well. It carries over, after all. Over time, things have changed to some degree with all of my family, and we are all more mature in our soul searching for our own truth. And I sure am glad, because I don't like playing God for somebody else. It couldn't possibly be the highest good for any of us. The only way the highest good can come is to lovingly refer all who ask for help to their own inner source and supporting them in whatever answer ensues. You know in your heart what is the right thing to do is a powerful entreaty. To thine own self be true is yet another. Item 4. You fork-tongued devil. Practice being honest. Fear will enter your life as never before when you do, but truly honesty is always the best policy. We often fear that by telling the truth about something, another will reject us. If you are rejected, fine. At least you have done what you must to live authentically and maintain your integrity in the process. Moreover, if you're not received well in your honesty, that tells you more where another is coming from than anything about yourself. Unless, of course, you have been brutal in your honesty and damaged one's soul. Refrain from that, obviously. With that caveat, it would do us well to remember that we are responsible only for communicating the truth and not for its results. So don't fudge honesty, but don't murder with it either. As a case in point, we sometimes point out an accusing finger at someone else, emotionally suggesting a serious lack or fault. This can sometimes be not only hurtful but harmful, depending on the relationship at hand. The truth of the matter is, we are more than likely projecting our denial of need onto another person as a means of coming to grips with our own lack or fault. Of course, we must understand this means of learning about ourselves if we are to grow in opportunities that we unconsciously present to ourselves. In such matters, we can use this old adage to advantage. When you point an accusing finger at someone else, you have 3 fingers pointing back at you. Recently, I engaged in just this kind of behavior. Fortunately, this time, I was alert to what was happening. I took a quick inventory of my own behavior and, sure enough, found 3 cases where I had not listened attentively. Lo and behold, I had indeed projected my own shortcoming onto another person, which ordinarily would have enabled me to keep from dealing with it myself. The task then was to fess up and deal with getting my own house in order, and to give thanks and praise for the opportunity to grow toward even more towards my highest self. It has been sufficiently impressed upon me now that whenever I become excessively angry or irritated by someone else's behavior, it is more likely because I am denying something akin to that very same thing within myself, even if not expressed in the same fashion, then it's some other way. It is my underside saying, "Pay attention, James. You've denied this in yourself, so acknowledge it and get on with life." Continually working on the integration of such matters into our whole fabric of being leads to integrity and keeps us from abusing others in the process. It's all part of being aware and living like one who is. When you're operating from your heart, honesty just comes out of your mouth. You don't even have to think ahead of time about what you want to say. If your intentions are from your truth, your heart speaks for you. Relating honestly sets the very example that makes it easier for others to be truthful as well. Harry Truman once said that he never gave anyone hell. He only told the truth. To some, it sounded like hell. It all depends on perspective. For a while, exercising honesty will be scary. After all, we didn't get to be so crafty overnight. We have been taught how to fib by most everyone in our society, so don't be alarmed if being honest seems harder than it really is, particularly in the beginning. But by merely starting, you have unleashed the love of the universe, and this power filling you with goodness. Being truthful will grow on you faster than you can imagine. The same is true of any new behavior of the heart. If, for example, I have been taught through life not to trust anyone, it takes a lot of practice letting go of that old belief and plenty of time to build a new habit of trust. One thing is for sure, when your true desire to change comes up for you, circumstances arrive that will teach you the new behavior. You need but be alert and consistent in your application of energy and commitment to the cause. The opportunities will stay with you until you have fulfilled your dream. For the most part, a new habit can be formed in about 30 to 40 days of successful applications. Give it a try. Allow for individual differences, and above all, have fun. Okay, I'm going to stop there today and finish that chapter the next time we get together, which will be a week from now. As you know, I dearly love to find posts to share, little nuggets for you to chew on between times. And so you didn't have enough to chew on in our presentations, sharing with each other. This one is from a site called Infinity and Comfort. That which you call God, I call self, the bright light essence you are. One more time. That which you call God, I call self with a capital S, the bright light essence you are. Live in your light, my dear friends. Be the light you are. Share it limitlessly, for all are the same and need to know that they're not alone. Okay, then, until next week, my dear friends, namaste. I love you.